All right, let's do section 8.8, special products, page 458 in your book. Special products that we want to look at first is a square of a sum. We've got a plus b, and then we're squaring it. Now we could do that as a FOIL method in the binomial times a binomial, but in this case, it's special. We have a formula that we know exactly how it turns out. It always turns out as a squared plus 2 times ab plus b squared. All right, and I'll show you that in a little bit. Let's first look at an example. If we have this example right here, and we are looking at 4y plus 5 squared. When we have 4y plus 5 squared, we know that our first term should be a squared. Well, 4y is a, so let's write that in, 4y squared. Okay? Then we know we're going to get 2ab in the middle, and so 2 times 4y times 5. 2 times 4y times 5 is right there. And then finally at the end you get b squared, and b in our case here is 5, so 5 squared is the end. And then I just multiply that all out. I get 16y squared plus 40y plus 25. Notice that it's 16y squared, not just 4y squared. You have to square both the number and the variable. Okay, and that gives us our answer. Now, let's take a look at another example. In this one, we have the original problem, 8c plus 3d squared. So once again, looking up above, we're going to get a squared, so 8c squared. And we're going to go 2 times a times b, 2 times 8c times 3d, and that's what we've got right here. And then finally b squared, which is your 3d term here, the whole thing squared. Alright, and then when I multiply that out, once again, I've got a square, and I've got to square both the number and the letter, so 64c squared. 2 times 8 is 16, times 3 is 48, so you get 48cd. There's a variable and there's a variable. And over here, we've got 9d squared. Now, I said I would show you why this is always true, so let's take a look at that now. We've seen 2 examples, now let's see why that's always true. Okay, that's always true because let's take a look at just using the arrow method of solving this equation. Okay, if we use the arrow method for solving this equation, what do we have? We have a plus b times a plus b. Well, when we take a times a, we get a squared. Okay? When we take the a times the b, we get ab. Now we go to these bottom arrows. We got b times a. I just wrote it as ab. And finally we have b times b, and that gives us b squared. I notice that these are like terms. I add them together and I get a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. So it doesn't matter what a and b are. When you're squaring something like this, a and b, it doesn't matter what they are, you're always going to end up with a square of a plus 2 times ab plus b squared. Now let's take a look at the next special case. The next special case is when you take those 2 numbers, and instead of adding them together, you subtract them, and then square it. So we got the difference squared. Okay? So now in this situation, you're going to end up with a squared minus 2ab plus 2b. Let's look at that. First one here we have is 6p minus 1 squared. What do? We take the first part, 6p, square it. Take both a and b, 1 and 6p, and multiply it times 2. So those 3 all together, and then you square the number at the end. And I should point out that you don't carry this sign through. It just comes down to here. It doesn't carry into the 2 terms, into the b value. Alright, and when you're all said and done, 6p squared is 36p squared, minus 2 times 6 is p is 12p, times 1 is 12p, and it's a minus, and then plus 1 squared, which is just 1. So let's take a look at the next example of that. Alright, 5m minus 2n, the whole thing squared. Well, we know from our rules that we're going to have a squared to start with. So we're going to take 5m to the third and square it. Now we know we're going to have a minus 2ab. So we're going to go minus 2, and a is 5m cubed, and b is 2n. Remember, once again, I don't carry the negative with the b value when I do this. Okay? And so now I have the final part of my equation from up here, b squared. So we come down and look at our problem again. B is 2n, so we have 2n squared. And when we carry this all out, 5 squared is 25. M cubed squared is m to the 6th minus 2 times 5 times 2. 2 times 5 is 10, times 2 is 20. And m cubed n plus 4n squared. And that is our answer. Okay. All right. Now let's take a look at the next one. Now, instead of multiplying two numbers to sum and squaring it, a plus b times a plus b, which is what we did first, and not doing a minus b times a minus b, which is what we just finished, we're going to do the combination of both, a plus b times a minus b. When you do that, you always get a squared minus b squared. Okay? So let's take a look. We got 3n plus 2 and 3n minus 2. So we see that is the square of differences. Alright, so here's what we want to do on this problem. We want to start by squaring the 3n and subtract the square of the 2, which is our a value and our b value. And we end up with 9n squared minus 4. Okay? Now we could multiply that all out. Let's multiply that all out and see what we get. If we had 3n plus 2 times 3n minus 2, and let's use our arrows. That 3n times 3n is 9n squared. 3n times negative 2 is negative 6n. Now we come down here to this arrow. 2 times 3n is positive 6n. And carry that out, we get negative 4. And we notice that this and this are like terms, and they cancel each other out. And we have 9n squared minus 4. And see how we did it both ways. We used the formula, and then we used the actual FOIL method, and we ended up with the same answer. So when you see this situation, you don't have to do the work. You can go directly to a squared minus b squared. So here's another one. This one, we see that it's 11v minus 8w squared and 11v plus 8w squared. So it follows our rules. We can go a squared minus b squared. And that's what we'll get for an answer. And let's finish it out. 11 squared v squared is 121 minus 64w to the 4th. And that is our answer. Okay? If we want to, we could check this one also. Let's do our arrows. 11v times 11v gives me 121v squared. 11v times 8w gives me 88 VW squared. And then on the bottom arrow here, I get minus 88 VW squared. And finally, I get minus 64w squared. Kind of ran out of room there, but I noticed that these two are like terms and cancel each other out. I'm left with 121v minus 64w to the fourth. I wrote that wrong right there. Okay, and there we are. Same answer.